Hello, my friends. I am truly delighted you are here today. Take a gentle breath, find a cozy spot, and let this tale begin. Picture a young woman about 20 years old. She is seated in a cold, dim chamber inside a castle. The walls are built of heavy stone. The door is bolted shut. The only sound is the river running outside. The only light comes from a small window far above her. Armed guards stand watch outside. She does not know if she will live or perish. She does not know if tomorrow she will walk out alive or lose everything she has. This young woman has no army. She has no wealth. She has no allies in power. Her own sister, the Queen of England, placed her here because she did not trust her. But this young woman will endure. And one day she will become one of the most powerful leaders the world has ever seen. Her name was Elizabeth, and her tale begins not with a crown, but with sorrow. But first, you must understand something about this era. In the 1500s, men governed England. Kings created the laws, kings commanded the armies, kings shaped the future. People expected women, even those born royal, to stay silent, to marry properly, and to bear sons. No one believed a woman could govern a nation alone. Keep this in mind, because it makes everything that follows even more astonishing. The year was 1533. In a grand royal palace near London, a baby girl came into the world. Her father was King Henry VIII, one of the most renowned kings in English history. Her mother was Anne Boleyn, the king's second wife. Henry wanted a son. He wanted a boy who could become king after him. When Elizabeth was born, he felt deeply let down. But that disappointment was merely the start. When Elizabeth was only 2 years old, the king had her mother arrested. He charged Anne Boleyn with dreadful crimes. Many people today believe those charges were untrue, but it made no difference. They put Anne on trial. They declared her guilty, and they ended her life. She was executed with a sword. Elizabeth was 2 years old. She would never recall her mother's face. After Anne's death, the king announced that Elizabeth was illegitimate. Illegitimate means she was no longer acknowledged as the king's true daughter. He took her out of the line of succession. Succession means the order in which people have the right to become king or queen. In a single moment, Elizabeth went from being a princess to being nearly nothing. But this little girl, alone and forgotten, carried something inside her that no one could take away. Elizabeth was raised in quiet country homes far from the royal court. She had excellent tutors, and she was a gifted student. She learned Latin, Greek, French, Italian, and even some Spanish. She adored books. She adored music. She adored learning. But she also learned something else, something more valuable than any language. She learned to be cautious. England was a perilous place in those years. Her father, King Henry, had 6 wives throughout his life. He had 2 of them executed. The nation was split between Catholics and Protestants. These were 2 groups of Christians who disagreed strongly about faith. Leaders executed people for holding the wrong beliefs. Elizabeth's older sister was Mary. Mary was Catholic. When Mary became queen in 1553, she ruled with a harsh and fearsome grip. She believed that all Protestants were enemies of God. She ordered nearly 300 people to be burned for their beliefs. The people of England lived in dread. They gave her a grim nickname. They called her Bloody Mary. And Elizabeth, who was Protestant, had to be extremely careful. One wrong word, one wrong letter, one wrong companion. Any of these could have ended her. Mary did not trust Elizabeth. She believed her younger sister was scheming against her. Scheming means secretly planning something harmful. In 1554, Mary ordered her soldiers to bring Elizabeth to the Tower of London. The Tower was a royal prison. Many people who entered the Tower never left alive. The Tower of London was a dreadful place. Its walls were thick and cold. The river flowed dark and quiet beside it. Her own mother died within those walls. Elizabeth knew this. She knew she was entering the very place where her mother perished. Can you picture that? A young woman, only 20 years old, passing through the gates of a prison, unsure if she would ever leave. Elizabeth sat down on the cold stone steps. According to legend, she said, "Here sits the most unfortunate prisoner in the tower." She remained in the tower for 2 months. Then they moved her to a house in the countryside. They kept her under guard for nearly a year. She was not free, but she was alive, and she waited. But life, as many throughout history have discovered, can shift in a single day. In November 1558, Queen Mary died. She had no children, and by the laws of England, the crown passed to the next in line, Elizabeth. She was 25 years old. According to legend, she was standing beneath an oak tree. The place was called Hatfield House, north of London. A group of men rode up on horseback. They knelt before her. They informed her that Mary had died. She was now the Queen of England. Elizabeth looked toward the sky and spoke in Latin. She said, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is wonderful in our eyes." The girl they labeled illegitimate, the girl they locked in the tower, the girl who lost her mother at 2 years old, she was now the ruler of England. On the 15th of January, 1559, Elizabeth walked through the streets of London to be crowned queen. Thousands of people lined the roads. They cheered and tossed flowers. Music played from every corner. Elizabeth smiled and waved. She wanted them to know she was their queen, not a distant figure hidden behind stone walls, but a queen who belonged to her people. But being queen was no simple task. England was a divided nation. Catholics and Protestants distrusted one another. The country had almost no funds. The army was feeble. And many powerful men across Europe did not believe a woman could rule. Elizabeth had to prove them wrong. And she was shrewd. She did not hurry. She did not create enemies without cause. She listened to her advisors, especially a man named William Cecil, who served her for 40 years. She chose her words with care. She smiled when she was furious. She waited when others wished to act. But the decision that surprised everyone the most had nothing to do with war or faith. It was about love. From the earliest days of her reign, everyone asked the same question: when will the queen marry? In those times, people expected a queen to wed. A king was the true ruler. A queen was simply the mother of future kings. Every advisor, every member of parliament, every foreign prince expected Elizabeth to select a husband. But Elizabeth refused. She met princes from France, from Spain, from Austria. She danced with them. She wrote them letters. She let them hope. But she never agreed. People pleaded with her. They cautioned her. They told her that England needed an heir. An heir is the person who will rule after you. Without an heir, the country could descend into chaos. But Elizabeth had witnessed what happened to queens who married. Her own mother married a king and lost her life. Her sister Mary married the King of Spain, and he controlled her every choice. Elizabeth did not wish to be controlled by anyone. She told her parliament, "I have already joined myself in marriage to a husband, and that husband is the Kingdom of England." End quote. Consider that for a moment. She chose her country over love, over family, over everything. The people began calling her the Virgin Queen, and she wore that title with pride. She kept foreign kings guessing. As long as they believed they might marry the Queen of England, they would not attack her. Her refusal to marry was not weakness. It was a clever strategy. But the greatest trial of her life was still approaching, and it would arrive from across the sea. In 1588, the most powerful nation in Europe was Spain. King Philip II of Spain was furious with Elizabeth. She was Protestant. She was aiding the Dutch in their fight against Spain, and English ships were raiding Spanish treasure vessels. Philip decided to invade England. He built the largest fleet of warships the world had ever witnessed. 130 ships, 30,000 men. He named it the Armada. Armada is a Spanish term meaning a large group of warships. The Armada set sail from Spain in the summer of 1588. When the English spotted it approaching, fear swept across the country. But Elizabeth was not frightened, or if she was, she did not reveal it. She donned armor and rode out on a white horse. She went to meet her soldiers at Tilbury near the rivers. She stood before her army and delivered one of the most celebrated speeches in English history. She said, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England too." The soldiers cheered. They were prepared to fight. On the night of the 28th of July, the English sent 8 burning ships into the heart of the Spanish fleet. The fire lit up the dark waters. The Spanish captains panicked. They cut the ropes holding their ships and fled from the flames. The great line of Spanish ships fell apart. The next morning the English struck. The battle raged for hours. The English ships were smaller but swifter. They could turn quickly and strike their targets. Then a fierce storm arrived and wrecked many of the remaining Spanish ships. Elizabeth and her small navy had triumphed. A small island nation had defeated the mightiest empire on earth. Can you imagine how the people of England felt that day? The queen they had doubted the woman they had urged to marry. She saved them all. After the defeat of the Armada, England entered an era of great vigor and confidence. Some call this period the Golden Age of England. During these years, English ships sailed to every corner of the globe. Sir Francis Drake became the first Englishman to sail completely around the world. Sir Walter Raleigh attempted to establish the first English settlement in North America. England was no longer a small island. It was becoming a world power. And something else occurred during this time, something that would endure far longer than any war or treaty. The theater was born. A young man from a small town in the middle of England arrived in London. His name was William Shakespeare. He began writing plays, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, A Midsummer Night's Dream. Elizabeth cherished the theater. She attended Shakespeare's plays and supported the arts. The English language itself was expanding and evolving during Elizabeth's reign as queen. It was becoming richer and more powerful. Many of the words you are learning today were first written during the time of this single queen. Elizabeth ruled England for 45 years. Her reign was the longest in English history up to that point, but the final years were not gentle. Her closest friends began to pass away. Her favorite advisor, Lord Burghley, passed on. Her cherished companion, the Earl of Leicester, had died years earlier. She grew older, and the solitude she had chosen became heavier. She had no children. She had no husband. The great halls of her palace grew silent. Sometimes she would sit alone and listen to music, the same music she had loved as a young woman. The crown she carried for so long now felt heavier than ever before. She never named an heir until the very end. On her deathbed in March of 1603, she finally agreed that James, the King of Scotland, would succeed her. He became King James I of England. Elizabeth died on the 24th of March, 1603. She was 69 years old. Her family, the Tudors, had ruled England for more than 100 years, and with Elizabeth, that long chapter came to a close. But the England she left behind was stronger, prouder, and more creative than anyone had imagined. She chose her country over everything, and her country never forgot her. And so, my friends, the story of Elizabeth comes quietly to its end. A girl who lost her mother before she could remember her. A girl who was told she was nobody. A girl who was locked in a prison and told she would never be queen. And yet she became one of the greatest rulers in all of history. She made a choice, a difficult, lonely, painful choice. She chose to give everything she had to something greater than herself. Now, my friend, I want to tell you something. You are making a choice too. Every time you press play on a story like this one, you are choosing something. You are choosing to grow. You are choosing to learn. You are choosing to give your time and your effort to something that is not easy, but something that matters. Learning English is not easy. There are days when the words feel heavy, days when you feel like quitting, days when you wonder if it is worth the effort. Maybe sometimes you feel like the girl in the tower, surrounded by walls of words you do not yet understand, trapped inside a challenge that seems too large. But look at Elizabeth. She was told she was not enough. She was told she could not rule. She was told a woman could not lead a nation. And she proved every one of them wrong. You are proving something too. Every word you understand, every story you follow from start to finish, every sentence that becomes a little clearer, that is proof. Proof that you are stronger than you believe. Elizabeth chose her country over everything. You are choosing your future, and that is something to be proud of. Keep listening, keep learning, keep moving forward. This is Storytime English. If Elizabeth's story touched you today, please leave a comment below. Tell me, what would you choose? Love or a dream bigger than yourself? I would love to hear your thoughts. There are many more stories waiting right here. Come back soon, my friend.